for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are author Saundra Pelletier and actress Tracie Thoms. Author, life coach, and a leader in the global pharmaceutical world, Saundra Pelletier was born and raised in Caribou, Maine. She attended college in Bangor, Maine. Her mother was the kind of parent who pushed Saundra out of the kitchen and into the corporate world. How did she do that?
Well, she started in kindergarten. She dressed me in suits.
Oh, she did?
And she made me carry a briefcase. And I said, I really don't want to carry a briefcase. And she said, school is not for eating and playing. It's really for learning. And so in the back of my book, there's a picture of me getting off the bus with my suit on and my briefcase.
Is that right?
Yes.
She really started that early?
She really did.
And she wasn't worried that you weren't going to be the kind of a mother or wife who knew how to cook and keep house?
She actually purposefully taught me no domestic skills whatsoever. She said the more domestic skills I knew, the less likely to get out of Caribou I would be. So yeah, she chose to teach me not cooking, cleaning, laundry, instead how to balance the checkbook and how to focus on kind of more corporate strategies, if you will.
Is that what she was doing?
She wasn't. My mother sort of felt oppressed. She thought that her choices were who she married and how many kids she had, so she felt like she wanted to do it differently.
So she did get you out of there because you headed up a multi-million-dollar corporation, and was part of the learning applicable to that?
It was, absolutely. It really, really was. And so I kind of took everything that I learned throughout my life. My mother sort of encouraged me to be a voice for women, and women who felt they were invisible. And I had an opportunity to really maximize that in the corporate world.
And what corporate world was that? We talked about pharmaceuticals. Did you know anything about that?
I actually was hired right out of college, and I worked for G.D. Searle. And they had launched the first birth control pill in the U.S., and they were really thought of innovators in healthcare. So I ran a division called Global New Business. And really what that meant was I would go into countries and determine what brands we were going to launch based on women.
Oh, so did you interview the women? How did you find out?
Well, we actually did quantitative and qualitative market research on what women wanted, and we really focused from puberty through menopause. And we asked a myriad of questions on what motivated women, what they cared about, because women are the healthcare decision makers for themselves, for their kids, for their husbands. So that's why we focused on women.
But it was more about the product than about marketing and press and all that kind of thing. You actually were working in that division of the pharmaceutical division.
Yes, and it was actually really about what did women care about? Because what did women care about for their kids? What did they care about for their husbands? What did they care about for their families? And what did they care about for themselves?
And you took whatever you were manufacturing here to those countries,
yes.
Or did you manufacture new things to go there?
We actually took what we manufactured here to those countries. It was really exciting. We launched birth control pills in Japan, which was a fabulous experience. But yeah, I had the luxury of traveling to a lot of countries to see, but women were the same all over the world. Our wants and needs, and we're all raised to be pleasers.
So you are a life coach. Were you coaching your employees on what to do at that time, or had you started this career, life coaching?
I was unofficially coaching, I think, almost all my life. Everyone that I've ever met, forever. So I did. I coached my employees and my peers and even my supervisors. But I really was trained as an international coach. So I spent a lot of time doing that.
Why did you leave that big company?
Well, I'll tell you, I wanted an opportunity to practice what I preached. I wanted to see if I could take this and follow my passion, which was really working with women and helping them see that the only ceiling we create is the one we design, and help other women break out of that.
But you talk about executive coaching and you talk about life coaching. Are they the same? Doesn't seem like it in your explanation?
I have to tell you that I think that a lot of people come to me because they want to be life coached, or they come because they want executive coaching, and it all melds into one.
Okay, tell us, what is it? What's life coach? What's executive coach?
Well, I think they're almost the same.
Okay.
Everybody in our lives want balance, right? That's what we want to believe. We want to believe that we can have a good work life and a good family life and good health and good friendships. So really, I think a great coach is really about being objective and observing and listening. But in order to be an executive coach, you have to understand what it's like to live in the corporate world. And as a woman operating in a man's world, which pharmaceuticals is dominated by men, I learned a lot of tricks of the trade.
But why should it be dominated by men? Here you are talking about birth control pills, talking about all the kind of things that women need, and they're telling us what to do.
I agree. I agree, and I found it outrageous. I did. I found it a little audacious even. And
were you pushy? Did they think you were pushy?
Actually,
because you were at the top.
I was on my climb to the top. I recognized that it was important to be diplomatic but strong. There's a very fine balance, you know, between arrogance and confidence.
And how do you do it?
Well, it's a tightrope act. It really is. But it's very important to keep your feminine edge. Intuition and multitasking are dominant characteristics that women have, but sometimes we misuse them.
So what is it about intuition? Because that's something in this book, Saddle Up Your Own White Horse. What is the intuition that we can use?
Well, I joke and I say that women used to get burned at the stake in Salem for using our intuition. But the part of the brain that controls memory and emotion, women have 11% more neurons than men. So intuition for women is real.
So it is real.
It is real, and it's that silent dialogue that tells us, you know, all of us regret when we don't follow our intuition. We know when people are bad or good. We know when to push too much or when to step back. So women naturally have that over men, but we should use it in the corporate world more.
But when you talked about executive coaching, I wanted to ask you, do you also coach men?
I do, but men that are referred by the women. I meet the woman first, and then they say, I'd love to introduce you to my husband, or my husband and I work together. So it's always the women that I engage with first.
And then the men don't have the same kind of intuition we do.
They don't. They absolutely don't.
That's true.
That is absolutely true.
Okay, now let's talk about multitasking then.
Okay.
You just brought that up.
Yep.
Women are great multitaskers.
Fabulous.
What does it mean?
Well, it's a good and a bad. It means that we can do many things simultaneously equally well. So one thing doesn't have to suffer because you're doing another. We can do 5 or 6 things and always keep our eye on the ball. However, what women do is something that I call confused motion with action. We check off our task list and we feel better because we've accomplished a list of tasks, but those tasks don't necessarily get us closer to what our ultimate goals are. What do we really want out of our life?
Well, what do you mean, don't confuse motion with
action?
Action.
I mean,
you mean just because we're working really strongly?
No,
fast?
I mean, we're staying as hamsters on a wheel, right? We're going to Costco and we're getting our dry cleaning. We're getting a 7-year supply of toilet paper and the oil changes and talking on the phone and carpooling the kids. And then we sit back and we say, well, what about our dreams? What about our hopes? When are we supposed to focus on those? So I try to encourage women to get off that hamster wheel and be deliberate and saying, use your multitasking to set time aside to do the things you want, so your stamp of authorship is significant.
So you can add your own desires within that multitasking.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. So it doesn't have to be. Okay, here we have Saddle Up Your Own White Horse. What does that mean?
Well, as little girls, right, all the fairy tales, the princess stands and she waits for her knight in shining armor to ride up on his white horse and make her happy.
True.
So I say break that mold, redefine that, and instead saddle up your own white horse so that if you choose a man in your life, you can ride beside him. Not in front of him, not behind him, but beside him. And if you choose not to, you'll be able to create your own happiness without waiting for someone else to do it for you.
Is this your first book?
It is my first book.
Oh, it is. So tell me, how did it come about?
It was a long and windy road, you know, and I've had a lot of people say to me, you know nothing about writing a book. Why don't you be a ballerina if you know nothing about that either, right? And so I was actually lucky enough to always understanding about perseverance. I went to a writer's conference. I met with a lot of agents. I had a lot of interest from a lot of people. And then finally, Tillis said, you know, we're actually interested because Tillis stands for Tell It Like It Is. And so
that's a publisher.
Yes. So my messages aligned with what their way of thinking was. And so here I am.
So in the book, you thank a lot of people. I love to read the acknowledgments. But you thank people who are in your family. So it seems like your circle of friends your family circle was important to you.
I was very, very lucky that way, yes. They were all incredibly supportive and still staunch supporters.
And so when we talk about women working together, one of the 5 principles that every woman needs to know is that we should work together. Do men fit into that equation?
They do. Well, I say women need to build what I call a cavalry.
Oh, right. Tell us about that.
Well, there's 3 sides of that. So one is emotional supporters, our best friends, our mothers, who we can say anything to without judgment.
And those are the thank yous that you did
Those
too.
are the thank yous, yes.
Okay.
The second one is strategic alliances. So who are other women that can help you and equally you get the return? So for example, there was a woman who wanted to come to me for coaching and she couldn't afford it, but she was a virtual assistant. So she acted as my virtual assistant.
Oh.
I coached her. We both win, and we're both adding value and getting
see.
closer to our goals.
So that's how women work together. That's what you mean?
That's what I mean. Well, and I also mean that too often we're great mothers, and we are great wives, but there's a lot of competitive feminism that happens with other women. And I say to women, if we can just support each other, we'll be able to rise ourselves up to the level of and hit the potential we deserve.
I think you just touched on another subject about taking the lead in relationships and in your business. Mm-hmm. And sometimes women keep other women from climbing.
They do. Well, their struggle and their claw to the top, they are so tired by the time they get there, they think, well, you know what? I'm just going to let fate happen for other women. And men don't do that. Men will support and fall on their sword for other men. And more women need to, because equality does not exist. It does not exist today. We still have a ways to go.
What do you think your book brings to us that other books don't? There's a lot of books that are help books, right?
There are
What
a
do
lot.
you call this?
So it's self-help.
Self-help books.
There's a lot of books. I think it's 2 things. I think it's the messenger, and I think it's the tips and techniques. I think that sometimes we can hear the same thing again and again, but when the right messenger comes along who has the right background and the right passion and puts things together in a way that there's practical guidelines that women can implement today. It's not theory. Women can take these ideas, put them into their own life, and they can see measurable results tomorrow, today.
But what are those 5 principles?
They are, number 1, that every woman can become a deliberate creator. And so you can be a victim, a flatliner, or a deliberate creator, and that means that you believe in the possibility that you can have everything and you don't have to give everything up.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2 is that you should use your natural skills of multitasking and intuition.
As we talked about that.
Right?
Okay,
Then the next one is take the lead in all your relationships, including your relationships with men.
So we talked about that
Yes.
in the business
Yes.
world and in your family.
Yes. And then no woman is an island. Build a cavalry.
Oh, that's a cavalry.
So, yep. And then the final one is that you need to master the 3 C's, which is credit, confidence, and comfort with success.
Comfort when you actually do what you wanted to do. Because most people say, oh, I shouldn't be here, I don't deserve it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or if I'm naturally good at it, I must not be able to get paid at it.
Oh, that way.
Right?
Oh, that's good.
So that's what, yeah. So I really, encourage women, master these 3 C's, get paid for it, be recognized for it, and start creating the life you deserve.
Well, I think we should all saddle up our own white horse.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saundra.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for watching Saundra and her coaching of us today. And we'll be right back with Tracie Thoms, that great actress. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Actress Tracie Thoms was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, where she went to the Baltimore School of Arts. At Howard University, she earned a BFA in theater and a graduate degree in drama at the Juilliard School. You've seen her in film, Peter and Vandy, Tarantino's Death Proof, The Devil Wears Prada, and the film version of Rent. She's guest starred on lots of TV shows, including her big role as Detective Kat Miller on Cold Case. And Tracie loves the theater. She's appeared on Broadway in Drowning Prose, 24-hour plays, and off-Broadway in guest stages across the country, great stages across the country, where there's a doubt that you'd ever be an actress. You go to the stage, right?
Right.
Were you always going to be an entertainer?
You know, I always wanted to moonlight as an entertainer.
Oh, moonlight?
Yes.
What were you going to do?
I hadn't figured that out yet. I actually, when I started college at Howard, I was a communications major. I thought that I would be like behind the scenes or something, because I didn't really trust that anyone would ever hire me.
Oh, you thought you'd be behind the scenes? You weren't going to be an anchor or something like that?
No, I wasn't a journalism major. I was like, I was a radio, TV, film major.
Yeah, well, but you were in the art school at Baltimore.
I was.
So
I
what were you thinking there?
You know,
You wanted
throughout
to start?
my life. Well, throughout my life, I kept kind of running from this desire I had to be an actor, because I thought that there was no way I'd ever make a living at it. So I thought I'd kind of do it on the side. So for high school, I went to a regular high school for 9th grade, and then I finally transferred to the Baltimore School for the Arts because I was miserable at this regular high school.
But what about your family? Were they in
My
theater?
father, my father works for the Discovery Networks now. But when I was growing up, he worked for Maryland Public Television. So I kind of grew up running around the studio, so he kept telling me to stop quitting what I like to do.
Oh, so he was encouraging.
Yeah, and my mom was a social worker, so she was like, whatever makes you happy, baby.
Yeah.
So, so I had a great support system. So I went to regular high school, and my dad was like, why are you at that high school? You're miserable. Go to Baltimore School for the Arts. So I transferred. And then when I graduated, I was like, okay, this was fun. I have to find something to really do for a living now. I can't go to college for theater. So I went for communications, trying to be safe. 3 semesters in, I had a 4.0 CUME GPA. I was doing all my work, but I was miserable. My dad was like, what are you doing?
Really?
You're just doing this thing because you're afraid to fail.
You were like 20 years old.
I was like 19. And he's like, you're just afraid to fail. You're doing this because
Were you an only
out of
child?
fear. I have a brother who's 13 years younger than me.
Oh, so
Same
you
parents.
were an only child.
I was an only child
you
until
were
I was
raising
13.
at
And
that
then
point, right?
He was
Maybe.
kind of raised as an only child too, with like an older person running around. So, so luckily, my father just kept, shaming me into following my dream.
The great thing is, here you were in Baltimore. Didn't you want to be a John Waters star?
Well, I did, but at the time I was so
he
young.
around?
He was around. I mean, I saw Hairspray. It took me a long time to see the musical version of Hairspray because I was so partial to the John Waters.
Right.
It's so kind of dark.
They were maybe a little bit older than you. They were all older than you, so they'd already made their thing, hadn't they?
They had, and it was a side of Baltimore that wasn't exactly where I lived.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I mean, I saw it as I was driving through those areas.
I got it.
And now I want to do John Waters.
I
movies.
bet. Yeah, I'm going to
like,
tell
let's do
John
another
about
one.
you.
Tell John. I'm like, you know
will.
what, John? No, it's time for another one.
Tracie.
Put Tracie.
Homie.
Home girl.
Home girl. Well, so here you went to Howard. You took
And
drama.
then finally, I just gave up on trying to run from my destiny. I just figured I'd just starve for the rest of my life for my art because it made me happy. And then I, between my junior and senior year at Howard, I studied Shakespeare in Oxford. Fell in love with Shakespeare all over again, and then auditioned for Juilliard.
That's
and
how
got
you
in.
got into Juilliard?
Yeah, well, I met the guy who ran the program, Michael Kahn, at Oxford. He's like, you need to come audition for Juilliard. And I was like, okay, great, I'll audition. You only accept 20 people.
That early in your career? That was very early.
Yeah, I was about 21 at the time.
Yeah, very early.
And he told me to come and audition, and I went and auditioned, and I thought it was just something nice to say to people. You should come and audition. I'm like, yeah, you're going to get my application fee, great. But then they ended up accepting me. So,
But did you get your big Broadway break from there? What was the big break? What was the next big thing that happened then from Juilliard?
Let's see. After Juilliard, I did some regional plays, but yeah, and I ended up doing Broadway in 2004, which was Drowning Crow. But I met all those contacts through Juilliard,
so
because once you graduate from Juilliard, they have this big showcase, and all the casting directors in town, they all come to see you, so they all know who you are. So I started doing a lot of readings and workshops, and I keep doing these things all the time, still, to develop new works, because the theater is where I come from.
Talking about new works, that's where you met Zena.
That's where I met Zena.
Zena Camlin?
Yes.
And
who wrote.
Zena wrote, and her hair went with her.
Yes.
And you started from the very beginning of this project.
At Juilliard, Zena was a playwright, at Juilliard after I left. This was 2 years ago.
Oh, it was. It was after you
It was
left.
after I left. But they still call you sometimes if you're in town to come and do readings and help the students there develop their works. And it brings me such joy to develop new works. Often I can never even do the play.
But Zena's older than you.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
Maybe.
is she the same?
Maybe. Because she went to UCSD
I see.
for acting. Zena went to UCSD and got her grad degree in acting.
I see.
And then went to the playwriting program after that.
I see. I didn't realize that. I thought she was older.
She wasn't
and
ahead of
had
me
written-
at school.
I thought she was ahead of you.
Yeah, no,
older
no.
in that respect, that she was
Yeah.
ahead of you. Oh, so
Yeah.
you started this play, which is at the Fountain.
Yes.
Which is with Tanya Pinkins.
Yes.
And it's a two-person play, and Zena wrote it.
And Zena wrote
Was
it.
she going to act in it?
She was going to act in it. In 2 other productions that she's done, she did act in it. And but this time, as a writer, it's difficult because you're making rewrites, but you need to see it to know whether or not things are working. So you have to step out of the play to watch other people do it. It's hard to keep an objective eye on it and be in it at the same time.
Was the first production at the Fountain?
No,
Oh,
this is
so
not the
you've
first
been-
production.
oh.
This is my first production.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, she's done it in Jersey and one other at the Phoenix Theater.
Oh, I see.
So, but this was the first time I was available to do it. But 2 years
I
ago,
see.
I did a reading of it when she was still writing it
I
at
see.
Juilliard.
So tell us about the play, because I loved it. It was
play,
so great.
isn't it
Don't you
fun?
love being
I do
in
love
it?
I do love it. It's a 2-person play with me and Tanya Pinkins, who I adore. And we play beauticians in a beauty salon that Tanya's character, Jasmine, owns. And we play the hairstylists, and we also play our clients. So we each play about 4 characters apiece. So there are like 8 characters in the play, played by 2 people. And we just keep changing our wigs, keep changing hair.
But the wigs, you change, the lights go down, and you're pulling each other's
Yeah.
wigs off.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Well, you know what? It's just like a fun
like
thing to do.
choreographed.
It is. And this was actually Tanya's idea. Tanya came in and was like, "What if we just yank each other's wigs off?" And I was like,
It's
"That's
like shocking
hysterical."
when you see
It
it
is
the
shocking.
first time.
It's shocking when you feel someone rip your hair off. Trust me. The lights go down and rip, and I'm like, "Oh."
Every
so
time it went
humiliated.
you start watching to see who's going to
Who's gonna
grab
rip
the
whose
wig
hair off.
first.
Right,
or
who's gonna get it first.
Well, what does it mean? And her hair went with her. Maybe that's what it means.
And her hair went with her. And, it's just, Black women, we have such a legacy surrounding our hair. It's such a big deal in our culture because our hair is so versatile. We can do so many different things with it. However, because we're also in a culture where we have an interesting past in America, and a lot of it in our hair is just another thing that makes us different. Our skin color makes us different, but our hair texture makes us different. So what are we going to do? Are we going to straighten it? Are we going to try to straighten it? What does that mean, and why are we straightening it? And are we going to keep it kinky, and what does that mean? Why are we keeping it kinky? And then everything in between.
Is that all part?
That's
all
part
of this play.
Yeah,
isn't
we're
it?
going to color it, and what color are we going to color it? Are we going to make it blonde? If we're going to make it blonde, why are we making it blonde? And it's a lot of things come up. I mean, it's a very, very deep issue in our culture.
And it's a very deep issue on the stage,
Yes,
but you
it
don't
is.
feel it.
Yeah, you don't
It's
feel
not
it 'cause it's
thrown
done with
at you.
such humor and humanity.
Yeah, it's
that
not-
it kind of comes over you, and then after you've seen the play, you're like, oh, wait, there was that one chick with the blonde hair. She
one who
was
thought
really
she was
kind of
white.
twisted. Yeah,
The one
Tanya's
who-
character thinks she's white.
Tanya's character. I want you to talk to us about the characters, but the one thing that I thought was so great, because it was in a beauty shop, we've seen all these other plays in barbershops.
Right.
Because that's the center of the men's culture.
Right, exactly.
The gossip, the reading the newspapers, talking about sports, all that.
Right.
So this was the first one that I'd seen in a beauty shop setting.
Right. There are a couple of other ones, but yeah, I mean, the beauty salon, it's just funny, because I remember growing up, the beauty salon was a very important part of my life. I would go every other Tuesday
Me
after
too.
school. After school, go to the beauty salon, you see all the same people, you catch up on what's going on, new hairstyles, there's hair books, there's hair culture, there's a smell of the hair salon, and it's just really just such an integral part of our community. You have the people come through, they're selling stuff. We don't have that in our play, but
Do one of the characters.
oh,
Tell us one of the characters.
well, I have 3 characters. One is an actress who's preparing for an audition.
Yes.
You know, and she's one of those actors who just came out of school, and she's still very much speaking in her standard American stage speech that you learn in school.
To her hairdresser.
To her hairdresser,
Right.
and she's asking her hairdresser to help her with her audition.
Right.
And her hairdresser's like, I don't know anything about this. Just give me some pointers. Just give me some notes.
Yeah. And then the
There's
other one?
that character, and I have another character who's an obsessive compulsive, a black obsessive compulsive.
You said that's really bad,
And she's
right?
a little insane. She's an obsessive compulsive. She's a conspiracy theorist, and she's the most different character that I play. People are like, I've never seen that before.
Are there
they
those?
exist.
Those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
All these conspiracy theorists in every culture, especially since
right.
the government is after them, coming to get them, and
Right,
you
that's
know,
what she was.
You know,
right.
they're trying to kill us. They're killing us off. They're killing us off. You know, there's that character, and then I play the character, the classic secretary who doesn't want to do any work.
Oh, that's the good one.
You know, she doesn't want to do any work. Everybody knows
She
her.
gets fired, right?
She
All
gets
the
fired.
time.
She's been fired 4 times in 1 month. You know, she thinks that she doesn't take any responsibility for the reason she's being fired. You know, and the thing of it is, every character actually has a point. A lot of the things that happen to her are beyond her control.
That's true.
However, in addition to that, she has this attitude that is not very conducive to her holding on to a job if such unfortunate events, like, you know, being late 3 days in a row because of the bus. You know,
Because
breaking
of
down.
anything.
Because of anything.
Anything
like
that
the bus
comes
broke
by.
down. I couldn't get to work. It's not my fault.
Before we
Because she's that
leave,
girl.
really quickly, I think that I love what you said, that all these white chicks always have to have a black best girlfriend.
Yes,
That's what you
they
wear
do.
in the
And Devil Wears
Wears
Prada.
Prada.
Yeah, I mean, it's just become a new thing, and that's a whole nother controversy, because it seems like a lot of white women, in these films at least, it's like their wardrobe is not complete unless they have the accessory of a sassy black girlfriend, you know. So, and it's twofold. On the one hand, you know, young black women, you know, actors are getting an opportunity. There's kind of an opening for them. It's like, okay, well, now I can be cast in these films as the friend. So there's kind of like an opportunity, but it's also a limitation at the same time, because, you know, I don't actually get the opportunity to audition for the lead girl.
Right. Oh, you never do. So they can't
Do you know?
rewrite it for you. Yeah,
It's like
I got
the lead
it.
girl's always white.
Right.
And then she can have an Asian friend, a black friend, a gay friend, a fat friend, a goth friend. She has like a fleet of friends.
Right.
She has a crew of people.
Right.
You know,
right.
and they always are kind of like just at her beck and call, because
Right.
she never knows what she's doing.
I thought that was really funny.
I mean, it's funny, you know, but the truth is, you know, we as black girls, we often don't know what we're doing either.
Yeah.
But in the media, we're always like, we always have it together. We're
You're
always
cool.
fierce. We're always cool. We always fly.
And you're
all
cool
that stuff.
today.
I'm cool today.
Thank you.
You should have seen me 15 minutes before I got here. I wasn't very cool.
No, thank
Stuck in
you
traffic.
very much. Keep writing to us. Email us, jaquinn1@aol.com, and we'll see you next time. Thank
Thank you.